Hi guys, welcome back to Anadialogue, the dialogue on analog music reproduction. In this episode, we're going to take a look at a very cool and performing vintage amplifier. One of the top models of who? Coming up. Okay guys, I decided out of curiosity to buy one of the best amplifiers, plain amplifiers, not receivers. I know they're cooler, the aesthetics are more appealing of a receiver, but I wanted to focus on a main pure amplifier, stereo amplifier, and I decided to purchase a Luxman L10. One of the best of all times. Actually, it is still a reference in designing still today. Because how the circuitry is organized, it is a true dual mono amplifier. I mean, the two channels are completely separated, as you can see in these pictures. It's a truly amazing machine. As for its quality components and the way it was thought, conceived, and assembled. A reference, a standard. Maybe, as I said, not that appealing, not that cool looking as we would think, but the sound is pretty good. I already want to say this. Actually, I was kind of shocked. From the test, we're going to do a test afterwards, it doesn't come out. The real sound, obviously, from these stupid little mics doesn't come out properly. But I must say that we're just a little below my Prima Luna, which costs much more now, at least. So, before diving in and seeing the various aspects of this baby, I just wanted to go over the main specs and try to give you a little more insight of this crazy machine. Okay, now the Luxman L10 weighs 10.8 kilos, a considerable amount of weight. That's more or less 23 pounds. It delivers, its power output is 55 watts. It's amazing how the instruction booklet is very detailed. You have all the measurements in the end, the frequency response, the harmonic distortion, the impedance. I mean, it's fantastic how things should be conceived, produced, and sold. But that doesn't happen anymore. And Luxman is a good brand still today, but it isn't that Luxman of the golden years in Japan. In any case, this baby delivers 55 watts on 8 ohms. And it does that without ever changing, with a flat response from 20 hertz all the way up to 20 kilohertz. Perfectly. With a total harmonic distortion of 0.015%. Wow. Very, very good. The damping factor is 80, which it's decent. It's pretty good. 8 ohms on 1 kilohertz. And the signal-to-noise ratio is 90 dB for the phono preamp, the phono stage, because it has a phono stage obviously built in, as all amplifiers and receivers of the golden age of hi-fi. The amplification of the rest is 100 dB, so excellent specs, I must admit. The frequency response, I've seen mixed things around. Wrong, guys. Take a look at the manual. It says, again, the phono stage delivers a 20 hertz, 20 kilohertz. But the rest, the other inputs, the normal inputs, the line inputs, are DC, which means 0 hertz, all the way up to 100,000 hertz, 100 kilohertz. So the frequency response is huge. And a lot of sites, I don't know why it reports 2020. No, that's the phono. They're very honest in their presentation and their specs. That is something I truly admire. And I'm sure every single one is perfect and true. I mean, they're not pumping up the specs like to do today. Okay, guys, let's dive in. Let's try to see a few aspects of this baby and how it performs. Coming up. Okay, guys, let's take a look now at the front commands of our Luxman L10 on the front panel. Here on the far left, we can see a 6.3mm jack input for our headphones, which I must say is very good. I found that it delivered a decent amount of power, and the quality of the reproduction was pretty good. And something cool, as you can see, this is the selector for the type of reproduction. You can see that here on the left, we have the selector for stereo or also mono headphones. So as we will see, this is a machine that takes into consideration a lot monophonic recordings. In fact, as you can see, we have the selector for stereo, reverse, where you can exchange the left and the right channel, and monophonic. In fact, we're going to use that in a while. Proceeding here on the right, we find this little tiny button called Tone Defeat. Now this is to engage or disengage. This, if you press it, it's engaged. The tone controls. On this side you have the lower frequencies, on this other side the higher frequencies. You select the type of frequency and then you determine the intensity of how much you want to change that. You want to compensate that frequency. If you don't want to change in any way the signal, you just engage this and it'll bypass, and that's always a good idea. Because if you're not changing anything, bypassing this circuit is going to be beneficial for the quality of the reproduction. Proceeding on the right, we have other controls here. Very nice, very slick. I think here we have a subsonic filter, which is something typical of vintage amplifiers and receivers, mainly for recording radio programs to kick off that rumble. And here we have a series of controls mainly dedicated to tape, because in the past a lot of people were recording their vinyl, their other programs, also from one deck to another. That's what you can do. You can send one signal to another deck, and obviously you can monitor tape 1 or tape 2, because in the back, as we will see, we have different kinds of inputs, also dedicated mainly with having in mind the possibility of connecting tape decks or reel-to-reel decks. As you know, as we all know, tape was big in the past. Okay, proceeding along here, we have our input selector. Very nice feel, very nice knob. One tuner, one phono, one for our turntable. You can connect a moving magnet type of cartridge. The quality of this phono stage is very good. I must admit, it's very good. Plus we have two other inputs for anything else we want. Here on the right we have this balance selector where you can increase the signal on one side or the other. Obviously our volume control right here. And in the end, this black little button is the power switch. And our nice little Luxman logo. Now let's take a look at the rear. Let's take a look now at the rear of our Luxman 10. Here, as you can see, there's the serial number, and also you can notice that this is a European voltage machine. Now, if you want to buy one of these or any kind of vintage amplifier, always make sure to choose the correct voltage. Yes, you can use a step up and a step down transformer, but as I always say, the best thing is to choose the machine with a native voltage for your country. That's always the best. Here we can see the power cord. Here instead we find the original connectors of in this case, the rear speaker. As you can see, the impedance none less than 4 ohms. So be careful about that. Now, if you want to keep these, there's no problem. You're going to put the bare wire directly inside the connector. That's how vintage amplifiers were. Unfortunately, the cable might oxidize and the performance would go down after a while. In any case, it's very easy if you want to unscrew these and insert something like this. You can find it for 20-30 euro online. It's very easy. You just need to open up the machine, unscrew it, connect the cables, and voila, you have something modern and you can use bananas or spades. Very cool. If instead you want to maintain the vintage, the true connectors of your amplifier, another good solution if you don't want to use a bare cable is something like this. Like for example, these are Nakamichi, where you just insert the cable and very easily, this way you put this tiny little pin inside like that, and then you lock it in position. That way you have a better connection, you can change cables easily, and also you can use higher quality or even fatter type of cables, because otherwise it's difficult to insert them in here. Okay, let's proceed here on the right. Let's see what we have. We have our ground. If you're going to use our phono stage here, this is for moving magnet type of cartridges. Very, very good quality. We have 1 and 2 inputs. Also another input here if you want a tuner, but anything you want, no problem with that. It's just a normal line input. Here on the right, we have a DIN connector. Let's see also the rest, where you can input or output the signal, a line signal coming from anything of these. So this is very useful, although it's difficult to find an adapter now for this type of plug, but you can find them also on Amazon. Here instead you find something similar to this. We have the rec out and the monitor out for the tape. As we know, in the past, a lot of people recorded vinyl or another tape to another tape, to reel tape or cassette or whatever it is. Now, if you have a normal deck, you would use this. If you have a 3-head deck, you could use this one, the monitor one. If you select this at the same time, you can also listen to the cassette. You need a 3-head deck, obviously, to do that. Here on the far side, we have pre-out and main in. Now, this is a feature that appears in several amplifiers, vintage amplifiers, and not only. What is this? In fact, as you can see, they're connected because this is an integrated amplifier. If you want to use this as a preamplifier or a power amplifier, you can do this. For example, you could detach these and use this only as a preamplifier and send the signal out of these guys here, these outputs, to a power amplifier. Or instead, you could use another preamplifier and send the signal here and use, in this case, the Luxman as a power amplifier. So you have multiple types of choices. Obviously, here we have the left connectors of the speaker. Okay, guys, test time. 100% analog test. We're going to start out with a cassette that I made from my friend Jeffrey Scott Greer. He does great music. You can find the link here below. He's on Bandcamp. And I also did an interview with him once. Please check out the video if you haven't. Here's a link. And let's try to hear his music with this baby from my Nakamichi ZX9. Let's start. Okay, now let's pass on to our LP, vinyl. We're gonna listen to a mono recording, Lou Donaldson, Blues Walk, great record. And we're gonna listen a little bit of the air, of the timbre, of the instruments, of the saxophone, of what comes out this fantastic recording, the alto sax actually. This phono stage is for MM, and I'm using an MC cartridge, the Denon 102 DL102 mono, but it's a high output, 3 millivolts, so it can deal with it, no problem at all. Let's start. Oh, I forgot. We have to select our phono input and put mono. There you go. Okay, let's try to listen to something else, just to vary a little bit the sound. Okay guys, I forgot to mention when this was produced, because actually it's not out of the 70s, although it was produced at the end of the 70s, but it came out, it was released starting in 1980 and all the way, again, I think to 1981. And the price at that time, more or less, was 128,000 yen, which I made some calculations online, which more or less is around $1,800, which is pretty good, I think, actually. It's not that expensive. Well, it's not even a very cheap component, but I was thinking much, much more for Luxman. In any case, who cares about that? Today, you can find it for excellent prices. It's not very low. The price isn't very low. I paid €600, which is more or less the maximum. That's around $700. But I'm sure you can find it. I've seen it around. The auctions already closed, even for $400, $500. And if you want a performing, true dual mono amp with these capabilities, go for it. That's an excellent starting point. I know it doesn't have that many features. Again, it's not that cool, but you won't regret it. I mean, the sonics are amazing. I want to describe it a little bit before leaving you, because again, from the test, I'm sure a lot of nuances did not come through. Well, I found that the sound was tight, a good bass, not very deep, okay? That's true, not very deep, but a good bass with a good timing. I like very much the transients. Also, especially the cymbals. When you heard jazz, you could hear all those that different kinds of sounds of the brass, different kinds of plates of the cymbals. The vibrating, I mean, that was truly magical. I mean, a lot of amplifiers start to merge and get a little muddy in that part. That was very sophisticated. In fact, I agree that this isn't a heavy, hard rock, metal music amplifier. It's mainly for connoisseurs, for quality music, for jazz, for pop, rock, classical music, obviously. But not only. I mean, I tried also other genres, and it was all very, very high quality class, as I hope you heard. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please post your comments for other vintage amplifiers you like, especially the Luxmans. I'm very interested in that, and hope to see you soon, guys. Remember, music is born analog. Well, guys, if you're enjoying my videos and you're enjoying my channel, please consider to subscribe by clicking the black and white logo here below. Also, don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll never miss an episode and you will become a true member of the analog community.